Come light it up, I'm ready to go. Come light it up, come light it up, I'm ready to go. Come light it up,
I am honored to be here today at Data Nova Live, talking to everyone. This is 2023. I'm here to tell you we are done talking about data mesh. We are done talking about data product. We are facing economic headwind. It is time we start building it. And that's why I'm super excited to be here, because that's what I want to talk to you about. My name is Sanjeev Mohan. I am a principal analyst with a company, my own company, SanjMo. It's a very large analyst firm. It consists of me, Alexa, Siri. I've just added ChatGPT, so I've expanded my team. Jokes aside, I love delving into and examining modern data trends and how to use technology for our benefit. So this is my passion, and I am joined by Sajid Khan from Deloitte. So Sajid, nice to see you. How are you?
Hey, Sanjeev. Good to see you virtually. Sorry I couldn't make it in person, but this is very exciting. Hello, everyone. My name is Sajid Khan. I'm a principal in Deloitte's AI and data practice, and I lead our data management enablement business, which is very much focused around how to drive value from our clients' data investments and rapidly generate business outcomes from it. And very excited to partner with Sanjeev for this talk today, and excited to debate how we are going to take data products and data mesh to the market.
Very nice. So Sajid and I will engage in some interactive Q&A. I'd like to tell all your listeners, please post your questions. So because the topics that we're going to talk about today are sort of more cutting edge data products, and you may have a lot of questions. So this is a very important topic for us for this year and for next coming years. I feel it's revolutionary for us to talk about data products. And why do I say it's revolutionary and why it's so important? Is because our current systems are not meeting the promises that we were given. I come from way back when we built stuff on premises. When we moved into the cloud, so many constraints went away. Storage is cheap, compute is relatively cheap, very easy to bring up instances, and I have to pay for consumption, and I can get as many resource scalability. Cloud provided me the separation of storage and compute, which means I can now scale each one independently. All these things happen. So what did we end up doing? We can now easily spin up an instance, do like a virtual warehouse in Snowflake, and do zero-copy clone, get a copy of data, and I can go ahead and start creating my reports and dashboards, as long as I have authorization to the data. So that's the ease of use. But there's a little bit of a sinister thing that hides behind it. When we have this ease of use, then the discipline into optimizing it and being very thorough in our decision making goes out the door. And we bring some of these habits that we had on premises back into the cloud, and we start using systems the way they were. So what is the end result? We get these pipelines that are brittle. Although we have these modern data stacks, we are still dealing with data quality that's poor, machine learning models that we cannot trust. So some of these problems have not gone away. In fact, we thought we would save cost, but instead we are dealing with heavy costs. I talk to customers who say, I spent X amount of dollars in my data and analytics architecture. What did I get out of it if I cannot trust my data or my models? So what has happened is we solved the build problem. We made it very easy to build things, but we shifted the cost to the maintenance, the operations of it. Now I've got the spaghetti of pipelines. So what do I need? I need catalog to discover things. I need observability to understand where in my pipeline things are breaking. So I'm here to talk about a new way, a rethinking of how we should be building data products. So let's get started. So what are some of the challenges that I see in our environments right now? So the first challenge is our focus has always been on technology. And I'm guilty of that because I'm a technologist. I love technology, tinkering with new products and so on. But we are not business focused as we ought to be. So when we go through the rethink, you'll see that's the first step that we will look at. The second problem is that we're still using tools that were built for on-premises when we had very few data sources. We knew all our consumers, and there were only a few use cases. Most of these data sources were in-house. They were built for batch processing. But now we've got literally hundreds of SaaS tools. We've got streaming. And interestingly, I was on a podcast earlier today talking about data products, and I had an epiphany, and I came up with this new concept, sort of out of the blue, unprepared, that I just want to talk to you about here at this stage, and I called it ETP. As opposed to ETL or ELT, you extract, transform, and you product it. And imagine that. So that's a new idea I had. And the reason is because I was listening to some of the previous sessions, and they were talking about how we're bringing all this data into our target, but we're not analyzing it. So maybe there is a different way. Maybe we can start looking at things from a business product facing idea instead of let's bring everything in, let's figure out what to do next. So that is another challenge. Speed. It was OK some years ago if business wanted a change. IT said, OK, fine, I'll put it on my long list of Jira tickets, and then I'll get to it. When I get to it, 3 months later, the business has their answer. Today, instead of 3 months, people want to do 3 releases a year. And we are not built for that. So, and that's because some of our processes are outdated. We are so used to saying, oh, Mr. Business, you want something? Go ahead, create a data mart. And here we go, another silo of data. So we end up with all these silos of data. And now we don't know where things, which is a single source of truth. So this is yet another challenge. Skills are still entrenched in the way we did things. And finally, our culture is not congruent with how it should have been in the cloud. And that is the problem we are dealing with. So what is the solution? That comes to us in data as a product. Data as a product, I'm sure by now all of you know that data as a product is one of the 4 principles that Zhamak introduced in 2018, 2019, when she came up with the idea or the concept of data mesh. So then the question is, OK, that's data as a product. What is a data product? Data product takes the concept called data as a product, and it turns it into a consumable output. Something that we can then use to derive some decisions. For example, it could still be a table, a materialized view. For data scientists, it could be a machine learning model. For business analysts, it could be a report or a dashboard. So that's a data product. It is a consumable piece meant to solve a business solution. And you can combine these data products, and you can create more data products. But the whole idea is that a data product is an amalgamation of 3 different things. It is a deep knowledge of data combined with a domain knowledge. And then you overlay it with product management disciplines. Why do we need this? That's because in the past, if let's say I needed a report and I had access to my data, I would go create some temporary tables, create a report, and then I get distracted, I move on to next project, and the whole thing sits there. No one knows how to discover it. If they discover it, they don't know if it's current or not. So we want to get away from that. We want an ability to version it, the ability to annotate the product, and have some discipline around it. So this is data as a product or a data product. So now comes my money slide, which is on how do you build a data product. So, but let's talk about what are the attributes of data product. So this picture that you see is from Jean-Marc Degani's O'Reilly book called Data Mesh, and she defines 8 different attributes, such as it should be, data product should be addressable, it should be discoverable, it should be trustworthy or high quality, it should be secure, and so on. So this is very well documented, but I'm not here to talk about what is already available because it's available to you. You can read all about it. My focus for today is on what I call a data product lifecycle. How do you make this a reality? And for that, let's look at the rethink. So I'm going to talk to you about a number of different areas that I've created for today. So the first one is we have a new role called Data Product Manager. Today, somebody pinged me because they went to LinkedIn, and there are already tens of thousands of data product managers. So wow, so this thing just took off. So, or a data product owner. So the difference is that we are now going to build things with the data consumer telling us what is it that they want us to do. The data product owner is the one who owns the or is responsible for data. Why do we have this rethink? One of the problems today in our complex pipelines is that somebody, let's say a data consumer says, I have a report from this system and a report here, and they don't match. I have a data quality problem. Somebody needs to fix it. Yeah, but who's going to fix it? Maybe that data, one data source was Oracle, another was SAP, then something came from Salesforce, and then you combined it with HubSpot, and the different admins for this. There is no notion of who is the right data owner. So the data product says that domain ownership is really important. It's really important for that accountability that the data product owner or the data product manager is going to take on. So the data consumer gives their requirement. We calculate ROI, we prioritize, and then we say, OK, now we are going to stand up our resources. Now, this is a team, so there are a number of people involved, or it could be other technical resources. But there's a difference. Today, when we build things, we have a team. The team builds it, moves on to the next project. But we are not going to move on to next project in data products because that product has a life cycle. And that is what we are talking about. So we need to create a team that satisfies the entire life cycle. Life cycle is build, maintain, operate, retire. So somebody has to say, OK, this product is no longer useful. I'm going to retire this. So that's why this is a very critical piece. OK, what are we going to build? Now comes this topic of data contracts. Data contract is something, if you spend any time on LinkedIn, you see there are various different interpretations of what a data contract is. It's a term that can be a little bit ambiguous, but yeah, we're used to that. Big data lake, so many things are just terms. But data contract is something that the consumer has requested, the data producer is creating, and a very common definition is you're documenting your schemas, you have an SLA, you have KPIs. But I'm taking this a step further. Remember on the previous slide, we looked at the 8 attributes of a data product. All 8 of them need to be in the data contract. How am I going to discover it? How am I going to address it? What is the security of that? All that needs to go into my data contract. Once I do that, now we move to the next swim lane. This swim lane has to deal with with the idea of platform. So this is my platform layer. And the first thing that I want to talk to you about is a unified metadata plane, whether you call it a data catalog. And like Jess said yesterday, I wrote an article, published an article on data products catalog. The idea is that let's not make metadata as a bunch of silos. We have to think through this comprehensively. Since we're getting into the data product space, we need to calculate, we need to extract the telemetry of my data products. Who is using it? What is a version number? How fresh is my data? All that metadata for data products now gets added into this metadata plane. So that is a common thing. By the way, I get a lot of questions these days about centralized versus decentralized. But I think it's a hybrid. There's some things that you need to centralize, domain ownership, and data product definition, all that needs to be decentralized into the domain's business experts. But now we're talking about some common foundational pieces. And now we come to the next foundational piece, and this one has to do with build a reusable framework. This is where we are defining a standard. What is a storage choice, a storage layer, persistence layer? Is it a data lake, a lake house, a data warehouse? How am I going to build my compute engines on top? What is going to be my analytical engine on top of that? Can I change my analytical engine? I don't want to get stuck into a siloed, like a very static architecture, because I know things will change tomorrow. Data scientists want a Python notebook experience, but a business analyst wants a dashboard. So maybe there's a metric layer or a semantic layer. So those technologies become really important. What is critical here is that we expose a lot of these through APIs. Data as a product could be as simple as a SQL statement, or it could be, as Jean-Marc's new company, Next Data, wants to do, a container. She's talking about data mesh OS. Maybe that is what sits here, and it exposes a framework. The idea is very simple. The idea is just like in manufacturing. I have an assembly line. I can build new models of a car or a product. I need that reusability. Once I made that decision, now we go into engineering. So see how instead of technology first, we have now pushed the engineering to a step after the standards have been defined and created, and now we are going to build and test. But what are we going to build and test for? Data contracts, because I've already defined what consumer needs into the data contract. So data contract becomes the focal point for me to build and test my data product. On top of that, we need the whole data ops layer. So we need automation. Everywhere, anywhere we can put, we need to automate it. We need orchestration. We need to have observability, continuously test, shift left, test, deploy, CI/CD, all of these things, version control, all that goes into my data ops piece. And then I am now ready to launch my data product. So I'm done at this point. Data product is now created, but guess what? Data product has a life of its own. Data products are going to change. So I need some way to create new data products or modify new data products. When that request comes in, what do? I send my request and update the data products. Now, the loop goes all the way back, but for simplicity, I just have an arrow going to data contract. I create a new version of data contract. Where do I store the data contract? In my data products catalog. Data products catalog is my marketplace now. This is where people are going to go discover data products. This is where the data contracts are stored. And from that data products catalog, I then have the journey continue all the way into creating a new version of data products. So I'm going to stop here. And I'm sure there are some questions coming in, but I'm going to bring Sajid back on. So Sajid, I have a few questions that are coming in. So So the first question is, so by the way, it's great to have Sajid on because he is out there on pounding the pavement with the clients 24 all day, 24/7. I've been in consulting, I'm sure. And he's seeing things for the first time. So my question to you, Sajid, is what are you seeing in terms of your customers adopting data products?
Yeah, thanks, Sanjeev, and thanks for the recipe for data products. I'm going to take that recipe to some of my clients and expose it to them so they can understand how. But from an interest perspective, I think there's a lot of interest from our clients, from what we are seeing in the field around this construct of a data product and or the broader construct of a data mesh. And it's appealing to our clients because the whole concept of data product is geared towards faster business value to our clients from their data investments, which is something that especially our business users struggle with as they invest more and more into building data assets into their IT ecosystems. And the promise of the data product is that we're going to liberate that data, create a product out of it that they can realize business value in a short period of time and in a self-serving manner, where they are more focused on asking the right questions from the data instead of collecting the right data. So that is the what I'm seeing broadly in the market now. Where we see challenges and opportunity is around how do we achieve this, and also how do we bring business and IT together so that they can collectively work toward this goal of creating more data products in the organization.
Are there Sorry, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
No, I think, are there any industries that are doing this better than others?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my vantage point, there are industries that are better positioned to extract value from these data products right away, primarily in the regulatory and governed industries like healthcare and financial services, where when they're looking at data, or they have historically looked at data, they have looked at data to answer certain regulatory questions, or they have metrics that they need to report out. And from what I'm seeing, financial services organizations, especially, and banks and capital markets, they have been struggling with very gnarly business questions around, let's say, fraud risk management, AML, KYC, all these things that require organizational data, but in a form that it connects across various systems within the organization, connects across various silos that exist within the organization. And the business value construct is very clear on what they can do with their products. So it's a very appealing construct for them, and a framework that allows them to bring multiple data domains or data assets or sources under this umbrella of data products to answer business questions in a relatively short time.
That is great. It's great to hear. And you mentioned data mesh, and I just remember one question that I get quite frequently is that, oh, so data products is part of data mesh. And I have to clarify, no, actually, data mesh is a concept, and data product is an actual thing. They're not necessarily linked together. You don't have to do data mesh if you're a small organization. Maybe you don't have a complicated environment. But data product is a good thing to do. They're not necessarily linked. In fact, Zhamak, I did a podcast with her, and I was quite amused to hear that she feels that at some point the term data mesh is going to slowly disappear, and it'll be data products. So the adoption of data products is going to become bigger. Is that something that gels with?
Yeah, one of the biggest promise of data products for our clients is that it's self-governed, and it's within its boundaries. It has immense value and self-contained value. It's robust, and it's able to handle change relatively in a more sophisticated way. So yes, data mesh as a product construct has a lot of value for at an organizational level, but for rapid value realization, data products is something that is more achievable. That is something that can be put in front of the business in a relatively short amount of time, and which brings me to the challenges that some of our clients are facing in this area as well. As we think about data products, it's a relatively newer mindset towards how you look at data and how you look at engineering data products, bringing them to the market, and upskilling your teams in order to drive most value out of it. And that's where the change around the culture within the orgs, the talent, and the technological enablement is something that that we are starting to advise our client a lot more on.
That is great. Sajid, you partner very closely with Starburst. Curious, how are your firm, Deloitte and Starburst, activating this market?
Yeah, so when we started working together, I would say almost a year ago, the biggest value proposition for us was there was a product that was out there that was educating our clients on the value of data mesh and data products as a whole. And it was very complementary to our mindset around how do our clients drive value from their data investments. So there was a natural alignment in how we think about data. Second, some of the industries where we are seeing, as I mentioned earlier, industries where I'm seeing more demand for data products is where we are kind of partnering with Starburst to drive that demand together. And we are seeing some good client response to what we are educating them on. So that is also helping. And then lastly, we at Deloitte are leveraging Starburst to build our own data products. So we are also in the business of creating data analytical products that we can take to the market. And Starburst is a platform that we use to bring our own data products, analytical products, and AI products to the market. One of which, the example you will hear tomorrow on this platform, where some of my colleagues will share a new solution called CMOS that sits on top of Starburst.
Very interesting. So I didn't know that you're creating your own data products. And you mentioned that data products is a new mindset, and the culture changes. So I am curious what is Deloitte doing to bring that new mindset? How are you skilling your team to think data products?
Yeah, so as an advisory firm, as a firm that engages with some of the largest clients that are out there, we spend a lot of time with our clients in defining their strategy around data. We call it our data strategy offering. And one of the big things that we are doing on our side is to make sure this construct of data products is embedded in our go-to-market strategy around data, and how we are defining the feature state data organizations and architectures for our clients. So that's one way we are doing it. Second, we are skilling our own talent on this construct too, because there is definitely demand for our business, our collective business here on data products. But we want to make sure we are ready when it comes to serving that demand, when it comes to bringing professionals who are upskilled and reskilled on this construct, especially on platforms like Starburst, but also generally understanding what this construct is and how it can provide value to our clients. And that's where we are seeing a ton of traction in getting our talent upskilled and ready to serve that demand.
So Sajid, thank you so much for such great answers. I got a question today from somebody who was very concerned and saw some of my research and said, I'm a data engineer. What happens to my job? What should I do? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so actually, that's a good segue into a new mindset towards how we develop data products as well, which is we are actually shifting a lot of our data practitioners from being data collectors or aggregators to data engineers. And one of the big things around being a data engineer is having that product mindset, understand something that you're building, like a data product, requires the software engineering and data engineering skills. It's not very different from building an application that a software engineer will be building to a data engineer that will be building a data product. So there's actually a natural alignment to someone who is a data engineer to shift towards building data products than data assets or data lake houses and warehouses that we have built in the past. So there's that. But then also there is this new construct around product engineering that Deloitte is launching in the market, which fits squarely into how we build data products. And we are kind of connecting these two together to again, reskill our quote-unquote data engineers to be more product engineers around data.
That is great. I'm so happy to hear your answers. By the way, my take is very similar to what you said. I think data products is a breath of fresh air for data engineering. Data engineers are typically overwhelmed with all these requests that come in, and you move from being very reactive to being a bit proactive. And instead of firefighting, trying to see where the pipeline broke and what happened, you do things in a more disciplined. Like you said, borrow from the software engineering best practices. And I'll end here. Thank you so much for your time. I strongly believe that we live in an era, a golden era of data, and this is going to be an amazing time of our lives building data products. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Sajid, for joining me on this journey.
Thank you, Sandeep.